we can do them in person so that there's really more of a dialogue. So I'm going to turn this back to Rista, because Rista and Val will be able to share with you how going forward what it will look like and how we can continue this. So thank you all.
So, you know, as we grow, as we develop both with residential and with commercial properties, we know that you are the front line. You are the people that people coming to Torrington or interested in Torrington are talking to first. Usually before they ever get to any of us, you're our front line. And we want to make sure that you have all of the tools and the knowledge to really sell Torrington and help us bring these great businesses and people to our town. Many of you that I know already, because we work very closely together. Some of you I don't. And so, you know, just as the mayor said, at any point we're here for you. We are on the economic development web page of the city's website. I'll be launching, it'll be up and running by the end of the day today, a real estate agent toolkit. And the idea for the toolkit is just to have resources that you may need. We have we know that there's a lot of demand right now with people wanting to move up to this area. So we want to get this information out to you. And we just want a disclaimer, we know that it's not perfect. We will continue to improve upon them as we go, but we feel that we don't want perfection to stand in the way of progress. So we want to get this launched and get this information to you. If there's anything that you want to see change or you don't have, please let me know. So there's an Excel spreadsheet with some already populated formulas in there. So if you want to compare properties within Torrington or within a different town, you get a per square footage cost, a per acre cost, get your total taxes paid. Because even though we do have a higher mill rate, the reason we have a higher mill rate is our assessments are typically lower, not because you're going to pay so much more in taxes. So it's a really good comparison tool for your clients, and they're saying, oh, there's a property maybe in New Hartford or a property in Torrington, and want to see the difference in taxes. It's not just that mill rate number you're comparing. We have some handouts that talk a little bit about what does it mean to be a micropolitan? How are we the urban center, the anchor city of the region? What does all that mean? What services do you get by moving to Torrington? And we have some market study data that was done through our BAR grant that will be up there. But as we go through with this Building Healthier Communities grant, our idea is to really get more in depth with the market study and put that information out there for you as well. Before we get too much further, I want to turn it over to City Planner Marty Connor to just give you guys a quick idea of some of the great things that are going on in the city, so that you are aware of them, because you may or may not be.
Good morning, all. Marty Connor. I think I know almost everybody that's on the chat. We talk on a fairly regular basis, and my office is always ready to help you out and answer questions. We actually have been quite busy. There's a lot of stuff going on in the wings. I'm glad to see that one of our restaurants that had an unfortunate fire, Marino's, is about to get on track. Had conversations with the engineer and the architect that's designing a new and better Marino's. We lost another restaurant, Scarpelli's, but we're in talks with the city right now with an engineer that's going to develop the site plan for a new gas station on Midgeon Avenue. Mario was in the process of bringing us another brand name into Torrington, Jersey Mike's. That was kind of interesting. East Main continues to be hot. The gentleman that I talked to from Jersey Mike's pointed out very interesting fact about our Wendy's. I didn't realize this, but our Wendy's on East Main is actually one of the top producers in the state of Connecticut for all the Wendy's. Webster Bank is looking at some redevelopment on East Main as well, bringing us a new Starbucks. We've been talking with an engineer on that project. Walmart's looking, that Walmart center there, Torrington Fair, we're reviewing plans for 2 additions to the Walmart store in addition to Petco and 2 new pad sites. And then down closer to downtown, we've been in talks with the owner, the architect, and lately an engineer for redeveloping the old Hotchkiss Mills into a residential mixed-use development. And then, of course, I don't know if you've been following the old fire department on Water Street and Bad Dog Brewery, but that's going to be an exciting opening, probably not until fall, unfortunately, but it's going to be nice to have our own brewery downtown. So those are some of the things we're working on. We're also very involved with emergency management in my office right now. I'm the long-term recovery coordinator for Region 5, which is 43 towns. So I'm on Zoom calls several times a day, and the whole purpose is to look for what our unmet needs are going to be. And we have a steering committee set up, and Rista is running along with another one of our people in town, Mike from Lark, is going to head our local committee. So all in all, we've been pretty busy around here.
Great. The city is also, if you haven't been downtown lately, our Franklin Street Plaza is also under construction, which is intended to be a pedestrian plaza for events, for dining, outside dining, to bring people downtown. We're still going down that route, even though right now we can't have any large gatherings. We're hopeful that we will be able to soon. So there's a lot of life coming to downtown. There are 60 apartment units that are approved and looking for construction in October. So there'll be more feet on the street, and they're really happening downtown. So with all that, we wanted to bring in a consultant. So we've brought in Good Earth Advisors, and Val Farrell on the phone. Val's done a lot of work in Torrington, both with the city and privately. Some of you may have already worked with her and know her well. She is part of the team that is, we're doing an East Main Street corridor study to look at some of the traffic congestion, to look at some of the problem intersections, to look at the safety issues, to make improvements, and look at development opportunities and nodes along there. Part of our East Main Street, the lower part of our East Main Street, is in the opportunity zone. So, you know, we're looking at how does that help us attract development to East Main Street, and Val's critical for that. And it's kind of natural that she fit in to help us with our Building Healthier Communities grant, and with this, making some of these pieces for the real estate agent toolkit, and she'll continue to stay on for us. So I don't know, Val, if you just want a few minutes, and then I want to share the screens and show you some of the things that we've been working on, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Sure, good morning. Nice to, well, I think I recognize a few faces, but certainly some other names. So as Rista said, I've been involved with the city for quite some time. Coming off the bar grant, started in on East Main Street, the corridor study, which is very exciting because it really melds economic development with traffic generation. And we're trying to make that flow, we're trying to encourage development, but we're also trying to encourage activity between the neighborhoods. And that really is a regional shopping destination. I'm there, I live in Avon, but I'm often shopping there. It's easy to get to. There's everything within a short distance. So connectivity, both pedestrian and vehicular, is going to be important. We are also obviously coming off Franklin Street, as Rista had mentioned, and Yes, and in conjunction with all of this, one of the things, my first task really under this Healthy Communities assignment has been to provide you folks some type of a pitch piece. You know, I don't think people understand that realtors in my world, maybe because I come from a real estate background, my mother was a realtor, my father was a builder. Realtors are really the first line ambassadors to a community. And sometimes you know that you get phone calls from things that probably aren't even related to real estate, but you folks are really the clearinghouse. So what we wanted to do is just have something, just a visual pitch, a little bit of information, something handy, something small enough that you can get it out, or if you want it, you can print in hard copy, that just goes through some of the aspects of living in Torrington. And as you can see, we've come up with this tag, country living, city convenience, because that's in fact what it is. And as you folks know, I don't have to tell you, there's a whole range of living from, you know, condos, apartments to, you know, large homes on large lots. So under the direction of Rista and the mayor and Marty, you know, I've pulled these images together. Some of the information is draft. Well, actually, the whole thing is draft. But as you can see as we go through it, yeah, Rista, it'd be good just to go through, you know, make Torrington home, no commuting, just community. There's just certain pitches that we want to drive home that we hope that you will embrace as well. Why we wanted to get this draft out is that certainly we want reaction. We want some ideas on how to basically address some of the things that you folks are hearing. And then again, just have something that you can rely on that you don't have to generate yourself, that has a consistent message that you can hand out or have available on your websites. So in a nutshell, this is our first draft. Some of the information, like you'll see the Dreamtown link. We're going to probably take that off because it's old, but I just wanted a placeholder for some information like that. We talk about Bloomberg markets. People still don't understand the fact that all roads lead to the city of Torrington. I mean, even though we have people living throughout Litchfield County, they rely on Torrington as an institutional, civic, commercial, you know, it's really the epicenter of that entire area, which statistically is called micropolitan. A little different than metropolitan, but, and you know, over the years, we've sort of struggled on how to use that. And, you know, I've come to the, I guess I've settled with myself that we don't have to always spit out all this statistical data. But we just want people to know that Torrington is really the center, the epicenter of activity. And of course, cultural, I should mention that really is the main attraction when people come to visit. So you see we've devoted a fair amount of time about the cultural economy and, you know, the creativity that's there. And in fact, I think, you know, years ago, Marty put on a website. He's trying to attract more artists, and we're continuing to see the art community grow, not just in numbers, but in prominence. So I think that's always good to promote. Next page, Rista. We have valuing city services. You know, if you drill in, I mean, people see mill rate and they're like, wow, that's high. But relatively speaking, as you folks know, the homes are lower cost, so some of that modulates it. But what people don't realize, and me living in the suburbs, knowing if you have to call an ambulance or there's fire or police, you folks have strong emergency services. You have to pay for that, but it's there. And a lot of people, particularly in today's climate, is really looking for that. And then of course, there's also the hospital. A lot of rural areas do not have quality health care. And I think, you know, having Charlotte Hungerford there is an incredible asset. So that's just an overview. This is literally our first draft. So we've got some quirks to work out, but that's it. Rista, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. Thank you. So
Sure.
we have started with residential because we know right now in the climate that we're in with the coronavirus that there's a high residential demand. So So these are really geared towards residential, but we will be adding some of the commercial pieces. But in the meantime, we're here for you. If you have anything that you need to know or would like to know, or if you have any questions about any of the things that we're putting on the website, or if there's something that you need or questions that you have, you know, I just want to make sure that it's clear that there's an open line of communication with Marty's office and with my office. And even though I'm the economic development director, you know, to be a good economy, you need to have a strong community. So even if you have residential concerns, please, you know, feel free to reach out to me in that regard as well.
Krista, could I I had forgotten to mention something. Of course, with the COVID emergency, the mayor has asked all the departments to do what we can do too, to work with people. And we were actually, I think, the first to come out with, as soon as we found out that there was going to be outdoor dining, the mayor asked me to come up with something to work with all our restaurants and do what we could do to allow them to use the city sidewalks, to use parking areas, and we came up with a no-cost permit, and we talked with a lot of the restaurants. I think the first week we issued 11 permits and worked with the fire department and the police department. So, you know, we're here to try and work with our commercial tenants as well. Thanks.
So, you know, just so I want to jump on that, Marty, thank you for saying that. So one of the things, one of the strategies that we started implementing was, especially for the commercial brokers, if you have a potential purchaser that is kicking the tires here in the city of Torrington, we always say, bring them into the office. Let them sit down in my office with me, with Rista and Marty, with all of our regulatory department heads, so that they can tell very early in their stages of due diligence whether or not this is going to work for them in this particular piece of property. That is a strategy that we continue to employ, and we want to make sure that you are aware that we're willing to do that. You heard Rista say a little bit earlier that there seems to be a heightened interest in residential real estate in Torrington. A couple of weeks ago, the New York Times issued a newspaper article where they identified that Torrington was the 10th most moved to or relocated community from New York City. They tracked all of the mailing forwarding addresses by code, and Torrington was number 10 on that list. Now, some people are looking at that and saying, all right, so maybe that's where some of the virus was confined in the city. I'm looking at it differently. I'm looking at that and saying, if any of those people have relocated to the city of Torrington, even temporarily, once they're here, do they identify that we have a high quality of life? Do they identify that there's plenty of brick and mortar that they might be able to transfer or translate some of their teleworking into some small office opportunity? Or will they continue to live here, telework, but then become, through their family or through other interests, develop some other business interests? And we want to make sure that we're capturing that data, that we're pushing that data back to our brokers, and likewise, that as you're seeing it, you're pushing it back to us. On the flip side, I can tell you that there was a young businessman who was looking for a much larger footprint with brick and mortar, and as a result of the pandemic, learned that teleworking was very productive for his workforce. So he has scaled back his interest in larger, a bigger brick and mortar footprint. So we really, we're at this interesting point where all that data is really important for us to collect. The best way for that to happen is to be in touch with Rista's office, making sure that there's all this information going back and forth, so that we can find a way to market that or capture that market. So with that said, I again want to thank you. You are the ambassadors of the city of Torrington. We recognize that and we value that. So back to you, Rista.
Great, thank you. And you know, just the last thing that I wanted to say was, if you run across hurdles, especially with the commercial end of things, taxes are too high, there's contamination, different hurdles, we can help with all of those. We work with the state on a very regular basis. We're always going after grant funds when possible. We have our own tax abatement policy. There's other tax abatement policies within the state statutes and state programs that we can look at. So, if there's problems or hurdles that are standing in your way, give us a call and we can try to overcome some of those hurdles as we go. So I don't see anything at this point in the chat line for questions, but I do want to give everybody a chance to unmute, but it looks like I have to go. So you can unmute yourself if you would like to say anything at this point. And if you can't, I think you should be able to raise your hand and I can try to unmute you.
As she's doing that, I just wanted to add, the document that was put up earlier that Val and Rista were explaining, I'm sure they shared with you, this is a working document. So this has to be a living, breathing. This has to be something that is updated on a regular basis. Val Farrow also identified that our website is also a living, breathing document and needs to be updated more frequently than it is. So those are the kinds of things that we also need your feedback on. You are out there, you're getting that feedback on a daily basis. We might get it from you, every few weeks. So important information for you to think about as well.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, as you know, we've been talking about that document for a long time, and I like the draft. For me, as a commercial agent, I need that one-page piece because I can't get somebody to wade through, 6 or 7 or 8 pages. So if I could get that micropolitan piece along with the rest of the accolades that the city has been awarded, that would go a long way. As a matter of fact, it went a long way with Jersey Mike's. They got over the fact that they were servicing 35,000 people after I told them they were servicing 185,000 people. So once you make that document, if there's some way that I could just peel off one page based on whatever my current need is, that would be very helpful.
That was something, yeah, we spoke about that on Friday. Rista and Val and I met, and Rista identified that as a need that we've heard frequently. So thank you, Mario.
Okay. And the other thing is, we know the story with East Main. That's where everybody wants to be, unfortunately. But the good news is we're starting to see it push down towards downtown, right? You have it used to just stop at BJ's. Nobody wanted to do anything beyond BJ's, heading down towards downtown. We got a new Cumberland Farms. We got the Webster Bank project that seems like it's going to happen. Skytop was renovated. The new walk-in medical center. So things are starting to push down the hill. So that's a good sign because not everybody could be between BJ's and Target. As we know, there's nowhere to put anybody. So there's a few other national brands that are interested, but at the same time, there's also going to be some spaces that are going to be emptying out too. So we're very early in this whole post-COVID. We're not even post-COVID. And there's going to be a lot of moving parts, and it's good to hear that we're all going to be working together, commercial, residential, everybody. I know the residential guys are having some good business coming in. So hopefully that translates to commercial.
No, I agree. And, it's helpful for us to know we've been doing a lot of investment in our downtown, as you know. I mean, wider sidewalks that make it easier to do outdoor dining. Our investment on Franklin Street, that now affords those buildings a front door, 2 front doors, if you will. It's really helpful for us to hear from you as realtors. What else are these national chains or larger, larger businesses looking for. Because, you know, we can take a guess that it's, you know, it's more sidewalks, or it's, you know, it's an investment in our hotel that's downtown. But we really need to hear that from the brokers more than anecdotally. We need to hear it with supporting.
Yeah, as we've discussed a lot of times, it's a guy in Miami Beach, right, who sticks a pin in the map and says, well, there's just not enough people. So if we could get to that guy and give him our piece on our micropolitan status, that would go a long way. Now, it's all about the density of population. It's all about vehicles per day. So that's why everybody gravitates towards East Main Street, because, you know, we got 20,000 up there compared to, you know, 10 and 12 in other arteries in town. You know, JCPenney's going to go dark, and Bed Bath & Beyond's going to go dark. You know, Dollars to Donuts, Bed Bath & Beyond will get filled first. At this point, I can't imagine by who. But we also have some, you know, major medical uses being developed in town. And you're going to continue to see that. So some of these retail spaces are going to be redeveloped as something else.
And that's the next point too. Let's look at what we're seeing at the Libby's Furniture. We've got an investor from out of town, Vincent Capoletti, that's come into Torrington. He sees a real jewel in town, and he's doing a fabulous job building 16 apartments in that Libby's building. I mean, if you haven't met, I nicknamed him my cousin Vinny. He's really an interesting guy, very, very smart, and what a great job he's doing in that building. He's going to bring in some folks downtown that we really would like to have. People living downtown to be able to go to the restaurants and go to the entertainment. So I think that's going to help build our downtown as well.
And I just want to point out too, and Val might be able to chime in a little bit here, but you know, we talk about micropolitan because it's statistical, it's federal government. We know, you know, kind of can really identify and define what that is. But one of the things that we had, we're looking to do with the Building Healthier Communities grant is really identify what is the market for retail and our commercial development, because we know that it's beyond just the micropolitan area. As Val had said, she lives in Avon and shops in Torrington, but Avon's not part of that micropolitan area. We know that we get people from Colebrook and just over the line into Massachusetts that come to Torrington. So, you know, we are working on, you know, not just, the micropolitan is definitely something that we are, it's on our page, there's studies about it, it's very concrete what it is, but we're also trying to get some more concrete market data on the wider market that we have.
Rista, I just want to add, I think from a business perspective, there's the micropolitan definition is like incredibly important. From the residential perspective, I think it would be like really interesting for us to have a resource or a better place where we're collecting data on why people are moving out of the city, and or why people, like from a residential perspective, and why people not just are moving out, but are objecting or finding other places, you know, to move in. So like when we lose the business, like as a salesperson in general, like we learn the most usually from our no's, not from our yeses. And so trying to really identify why people are leaving and why they're, you know, picking something else over us. And just if we have kind of like a comprehensive resource on that, then that also allows us to probably align a task force on what we can do to overcome those objections.
Yeah, you're right. An exit interview. Anybody that's leaving, why are you leaving? I agree. That's as important as, you know, figuring out what we have. So thank you.
Are we talking commercial businesses or are we talking residential?
That was from the I mean, I'm sure it applies to both, but you know,
Yeah.
I think we have some pretty good like talking points and things on the commercial business side. And I think the micropolitan definition and more broadly expanding that would be helpful. But, you know, we are seeing an increase now of people wanting to come to Torrington, but I think in general, just trying to identify from a residential perspective, either why they choose somewhere else or why they leave here, would be meaningful data for us to try to capture and share with Rista and the mayor and her team so that we can see what we can do to identify those issues and to correct them as a city.
Yeah, that would be interesting data because in most communities I know of, the exodus from residential is probably 95% related to employment. So, and their appetite for commuting. You know, some folks change locations, they change jobs, and they don't want to drive 45 minutes, they want to drive 20. So at least in the communities in Connecticut I worked in, I mean, for the most part, it's employment. So it'd be very interesting to get data to see if that in fact is the case in Torrington, because as you know, Torrington is different, you know, it's got a little bit different dynamic at play there.
I have a question for the mayor and Rista. This is Diane Carroll. Can I chime in?
Sure.
I'm on the phone, so I'm not online. But can you both give us an update on the progress or non-progress of the Yankee Peddler building?
So I can tell you that right before the pandemic hit, the owner of that building finally pulled the building. With the governor's executive orders, everything in the regulatory process was given a 90-day extension. So he was supposed to commence work in the building by July 6th. That means he now has until, what does that get, until October 6th. This has been such a problem for us. I mean, we did everything very heavy-handedly, went after him through regulatory infractions, building code, and fire. He's not an easy property owner, and he's quite committed to the fact that he has about $2 million invested in the building, and he isn't going to just give that building away. So I agree with you. That's the eyesore, you know, that one bad dream you have that wakes you up in the middle of the night. That's
right.
Feel about that building.
So he has until October 6th to bring it up to code, basically.
To begin, yeah, and then once he
and then is he actually going to continue on with the work, or at that point it's going to be available for someone else to purchase and complete?
I'm telling you, if there's somebody out there who wants to buy that building, I will do anything I can to find a way to help them accomplish that. I've had meetings, 3 potential purchasers. The problem is he stripped that building and he still believes that he can get $2 million for it. Based on the condition, I don't think anybody wants to give him more than $1.
So I guess my main question is, though, in the 90 days up until October 6th, what's he doing exactly? Just bringing it all up to code, and it's still going to be a bare shell, basically, right?
It is a bare shell. The work that he had to do was the mechanical, plumbing and electric. So mechanicals, plumbing, and he has to start that by October 6th, and then he has 30 days from October 6th to complete it. That's how the permit was issued.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, not encouraging.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tony.
So back to the residential exiting, what we are seeing is it really has little to do with jobs and what we're seeing on our end. It has more to do with a perception that schools are better in the surrounding towns. So whether that's reality or not, I have no idea, but that's a perception, and perception, as we all know, does become reality.
Right.
And also for me, if you do anything with Facebook and you go to T-Town Chatter and you want to know what the town is complaining about, all the residents, they're saying crime and taxes. Now, as a realtor perspective, I have many people, Hartford County, Fairfield County, New Yorkers moving in because the taxes are so good. So it's really an interesting correlation. So I don't know if we're going to be, I don't know if we're going to be one of those towns that are going to revitalize, and in the next 10 years, we're going to be the new Fairfield County that everybody wants to be. And that's kind of what I'm seeing. So the ones that don't like it, I think we're going to go through a revitalization, and it may be a little bit painful for a little bit, but I think it's a positive thing for Torrington.
I was just going to point out, too, that we have a planning and zoning commission that really does listen. And if there are things that need to be changed in the regulations, they realize that the zoning regulations are not, you know, something that can't be changed over time. We have made changes to parking regulations. We've made lots of changes that have come as a result of just being more progressive and working with businesses and the way things are being done now. So keep that in mind. You know, we're willing to work with you. I think some of the agents that have been around for a while, like Mario, know that.
I was just going to follow up on what Tony's comment was, because that's very good intel on the data, because, you know, data is data. But, you know, if someone's leaving a town and wants to still be nearby because of schools, that's really a dramatic data point. And then, as I said, if they're just moving, you know, out of the area because of a job, that's another. So making that distinction is pretty critical. So we can address it. It's a very good point.
Agreed.
Do you residential realtors have data on the ages of couples buying or singles buying houses? Because to me, you know, through my coaching and relationships at the high school, it sure seems like not too many kids are going off to college and coming back. And that's obviously a problem. We get an aging community, and there's additional costs, and there's we need the younger folks for the shops and the restaurants and things like that. And it just seems like most of the youngsters are not coming back. I know my two haven't, you know. And that is partially due to work, but also just to see what else is out there, and growing up in this town, and a feeling of, you know, what am I going to do and where am I going to be 30 years from now if I come back to live in Torrington. We know it's a great place to raise a family.
Mario, I'll chime in on that. So what we're experiencing right now is the first-time home buyer market, plus some out-of-state people, has really increased tremendously. And it's mostly first-time buyers either leaving their parents' home, they've been renting for a while, don't want to rent because the rates are so good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really, you know, these people are already in the community.
So you are seeing a lot of
what I'm experiencing.
I agree with
Carol. A lot of our kids staying.
Yeah, I agree with Carol. I'm seeing a lot of first-time home buyers coming that are young, vibrant, bringing, you know,
we've had a tremendous multiple offer situation in the last few weeks. It's been crazy.
Yeah,
yeah. One of you guys stole. My stepson listed his house on Sunday, and they sold it on Friday. Cash offer, $4,000 more than what they listed it for. So great job out there.
Yeah, we're seeing that the last several weeks.
That's great news, because we need those young couples for a lot of reasons.
So I think that you can use your information on the commercial, you know, that information on the commercial side too, that, you know, there are definitely people that want to stay in this area or are moving to the area as well. So
yeah, and that data will catch up with what you're seeing now. I don't know if you're familiar with S3. It's quite a complicated package that's available, but not affordable to hardly anyone. That just hammers down on demographic just as far as you could possibly get. And eventually what you're seeing today will show up in that S3, and that will guide not only national chains, but, you know, manufacturers and companies on where they want to relocate.
Right. Sure, good.
You know, as I'm listening to these two residential realtors, two of my sons, both of whom went to California, both moved back to Torrington, and one purchased a house in Torrington. So,
Yeah, Mayor, maybe that's what you're going to see, right? They go off for 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
And they say, you know what, Torrington wasn't so bad, and they come back.
I think what's going to happen too is that we're going to realize that it's so much easier to work from home than we thought, and that's going to open too for people that like to ski, they like to be in the outdoors, they like to do a lot of things, and they can actually work from home and still even travel to the city.
Yeah, that movement was underway, right, Marty? But now this is really hammered at home now.
I couldn't believe that I could work from home myself and have my desktop on my laptop at home. It was pretty amazing for a couple weeks there where we were splitting shifts.
My daughter and her husband are here. She's going to have a baby. Actually, her due date is today, but they don't have to be back to work in New York City until September or October. And from a commercial perspective, you know, you're going to see those companies that used to take 20,000, 50,000 square feet. I think they're going to, we've actually seen information that shows it both ways. They're going to take some people think they're going to take more space so their employees could spread out. I don't buy that at all. I think the 50,000 square foot user is going to take 25,000 square feet, and people are going to go to the office when they need to, or they're going to go out to the office on a rotating basis or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely, yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
I think that movement is going to help Torrington too.
I do too.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see both, you know, we have both ends of the spectrum that Torrington appeals to, right? So the younger demographic who can now work from home and live more affordably, but still have a lot of the conveniences and be able to easily get to New York and Boston. And then also the more senior demographic who has lived here or been in the area, wants to remain here, and it's more affordable for them to stay as well. I think we can capitalize on both ends of the spectrum.
I just hope the northern part of our county is more receptive now to getting better internet up there.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
I think the other thing that we haven't talked about is 5 Point and the Yukon campus and bringing more artists into the area through the Artist Launchpad. I mean, we have a young group of artists that are really excited about Torrington and what's going on downtown. And finally, this is my 21st year as city planner, we finally have a tenant in Howard's. It had been empty the entire time. So a new owner in Howard's, you know, that's a big thing, really.
Hey, Marty, can you get us, any of us in there to check that building out? I'd love to go see
I think you can just pop in there and just introduce yourselves, and he'd be glad to show you around. I think he'd really like to be, to have like a collaborative kind of workspace and work with a big, you know, a bigger group of artists. He's got a lot of vision there. It's John Nolke, who started with that smaller space on Water Street. He's been very active. So interesting guy for you guys to meet.
I've heard a lot of the artists in town refer to Torrington as the new Brooklyn. So that's encouraging.
Hey, Marty,
cool.
we also have a recording studio now on Water Street.
Yeah, they're really interesting people as well. So that's great because that's bringing the music scene. Those people are really well connected with music. So, you know, we want all kinds of artists, you know, and that John Nolke brings poets in. He has like poetry nights. So, I mean, we're bringing all kinds of interesting things in. If we didn't had this COVID-19 thing, I think we would have had a very exciting summer.
I agree.
And I think as realtors, we all need to think about where we're marketing and advertising to as well, because, you know, now that we are capitalizing people moving from Fairfield and New York and some of these other areas, just really thinking about where we're placing our advertising, because in the time that I've been here, I've seen it change just over where we're getting people to come in from. And that, you know, where we're advertising does change the demographics of the town.
Great. Well, I want to thank you all so much for the meeting. I think it was productive. I think it was a great conversation. I hope you keep this conversation going. I did put my email in the chat line. You can also find it on our website. The city's website is torringtonct.org. And then if you go to departments, to the Economic Development Department, by the end of the day today, there'll be the real estate agent toolkit. And as I said, that's just a start. Some of the information already collected and some of the pieces that we already have, but they will be changing, they'll be improving, and we really are looking for your feedback to tell us if it's useful, if you need something additional, or if there's, you know, what your feedback on all of this is. So please keep this conversation going. I really appreciate you spending the morning with us talking about this, and forward to working with all of you.
No,
Thanks,
you all.
Rista.
Thanks, Rista.
Be well, everyone.
Guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.